Hey everyone, and welcome back! Finally, the spoiler season for Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate is over, and I'm pretty hyped for this new expansion because I think that there are a lot of cool and eventually good cards in this expansion. Um, Probably not all of those, but I think that there are so many that I don't really want to create a top 8 or something similar. So I just decided to talk about a couple of cards, and then eventually we take a look at the other cards in this set and eventually say the last thing about this expansion, about those. Okay, so let's start with this new cycle of Trivial Lands. Baldur's Gate basically has something like three different mechanics that matters in Pauper. The first one is Gate, then there's Initiative, and there's Adventure. There's also Dragon, because Tribal Dragon is something that is relevant in this expansion, but in my opinion, there's still no good card as a dragon for Pauper at least. So I think that Seagate can be the other Thriving Gate lands are great for Pauper, or basically great just for Flickertron, and I'm really an aficionado of Flickertron. In my opinion, the new Thriving lands kind of matter also, so because basically you always wanted to have more copies of the blue Thriving lands, but also because they printed Hipgate. Hipgate is the traditional Pauper filter land, but the third ability is can kind of matter because it generates a treasure token. I think it matters because Flickertron started to play Deadly Dispute, and to have enough artifact to cast Deadly Dispute consistently, Flickertron was running both Eagle Wellspring and cards like Golden Egg. In my opinion, Hipgate will eventually, Hipgate can help you remove Golden Egg from Flickertron, because you don't really like to have Golden Egg in Tron, and you can just sacrifice the treasure token you generated with Hipgate if you want to cast Deadly Dispute. I think that this thing is cool, and I also think that we are truly incentivized by doing that because Expedition Map is already again legal. For a certain period of time was banned in Pauper Expedition Map, but right now is legal, so we can not fear much not having colored mana, because we can keep more hands without colored mana because thanks to Expedition Map. For example, you can keep 2 Urza lands and an Expedition Map and just fetch your Thriving lands or Island or Hipgate, and in my opinion it's pretty awesome. Then we start talking about Initiative, and what is it exactly? Initiative is something like a portmanteau between Monarch and Dungeon. So basically, when you become the Monarch, or you take the initiative, you generate a status or something similar. So initiative triggers when you play a permanent with initiative, or when you deal combat damage to a player which has already initiative, And this time you don't just become something, but you venture into a dungeon that has a specific name, which is Undercity. So is just monarch for the dungeon, but it doesn't always generate card advantage, but it can generate a different kind of advantage. So the first room is just fetch for a land and put in your hand for basic land, which is pretty bad. But starting from the second room, you'll progressively get a lot of advantage. Usually from having creatures on the battlefield. For example, Forge is good when you still have your initiative creature, because you can make it bigger and try to keep the initiative for more turns, so longer into the games. Starting from the third room, you're effectively getting some better ways to take the initiative, which are Arena, that got an opponent creature. Arena, godding a creature basically force your opponent's creatures to attack you. In multiplayer formats like Commander, God says that the creature is attacking another player than you if possible, but in 1 versus 1 format the creature is forced to attack you since there are only 2 players, which means that if you can just god one little creature from your opponent board, forcing your opponent to straight kill their creature. And it can be good because when you play the Undercity or the Monarch, you are doing that when your opponent can't attack you, so you are forcing your opponent to attack with one creature which they don't want to attack you, so hypothetically can be a removal spell. Trap and Stash aren't really generating any kind of advantage. Well, Trap seems truly good in decks like Ponza, because if you have the initiative and you are able to attack each turn, maybe you have destroyed all your opponent's lands, Trap helps you being more aggressive. Another part that I really like from the Undercity is the second room, Lost Well, because it also helps you trying to find some extra answers or creatures, because you venture into the Undercity at the beginning of your upkeep and not in the end state, so you can basically do a pre-routine instead of just drawing a card in your draw step. Finally, the last 2 rooms are Archives, which draw you a card, Catacombs, which generate a 4/1 black skeleton creature with menace, and Throne of the Dead 3, which let you reveal the top 10 cards of your library and play for free 1 creature from them, and the creature is also getting 3+1/+1 counters, and it gains X-proof until your next turn. Okay, Throne of the Dead 3 is great. Is basically the same thing as Catacombs, because it generates another creature on the battlefield. Well, the token is pretty obviously that is way worse than Throne of the Dead 3, but I think that since it has 4 on power, is pretty good to deal with broken creatures like Mirror Enforcer. Okay, if your opponent is able to draw makeshift munitions, it can just sacrifice one artifact to destroy your skeleton, but it's not the same thing as Monarch, and just having another creature, I think, with menace, I think is good enough. Is obviously something that they clearly wanted to make it less powerful than Monarch and something more funnier or random. And I think that they did it well. I mean, it's not as powerful as the Monarch, but in its own way is still powerful, and I think that it will work pretty well with Monarch, because if you already have the Monarch, venturing in the city will eventually help you keeping the Monarch for longer, and if you have the Undercity, getting the Monarch will also help you keeping the Undercity for longer. So if your opponent has good enough drafts to steal your Undercity and Monarch, then you probably will lose eventually anyway, regardless of having the Monarch and the Undercity. But if they're not able to steal those status, well, it's most likely they will never be able to win, because you're generating too much advantage and not only card advantage. So the Monarchs that I think will be cool to show you are the blue one, which was the first one revealed. I think is probably one of the best initiative cards, because is a flying creature and also has 4 on constitutions, which means that the opponent will not be able to kill it in combat step with Glintoak or Korsky Fisher, so basically can block a large variety of creatures. And it also flies, so if the opponent steals your initiative, then you can steal it again, because it's evasive. I think the card is pretty good, but probably in colors such as black, we have better initiative creatures. For example, the black one has even more points in Constitution, but isn't evasive. Has another cool ability when you are playing something aggressive, or you want to kill your opponent with an aggressive by aggroing it. Because whenever you block this creature, that creature's control, the controller of the creature that is blocking Vicious Battle Rager loses 5 life, and losing 5 life is really something. So you most time probably you don't want to block it, or eventually if you block it, you are losing 5 lives, which is still something relevant probably. I just think that the black initiative creature is better. The 4 mana initiative black creature is better compared to the 5 mana, because in this expansion we have 2 initiative common initiative creature in black. If you remember, in the first Commander Legends we had 2 monarchs, common monarchs in blue. The banned one was Pauper, which only costed 3 mana and was kind of broken in Pauper. Of course, the initiative creature will not be broken as Monarch, and we don't have any initiative creature that costs 3 mana, but we have another initiative creature in black which costs 5 mana and has menace, but since it only has 3 in Constitution, probably isn't good as this one, since this one is better as blocking your opponent's creatures. Adventure. I think that either Ether Cup, or do you call it in English? I don't really know. It's probably the best adventure creature if you don't really care about artifacts list, because it's something like Spinner Spider, but if you consider that Penumbra Spider can block only one creature, this one potentially can deal with 2 creatures. If you're able to kill one flying creature, for example a Glintoak, and then play it, well, Boros Monarch or Boros Bully, they don't have any answer to it beside Journey to Nowhere, and not all the Boros Metalcraft list are playing Journey to Nowhere, so potentially it's better compared to Penumbra Spider. Anyway, it's still good in green ramp strategies. Probably it will not replace Penumbra Spider, and also not all the deck lists are currently playing Penumbra Spider, but you can cascade it, both the Adventure spell and the Creature spell, and if you are able to kill one Sprite or one Glintoak and then land the creature, it will be always good, I think, because you are generating a 2-for-1 and you're forcing your opponent to have one removal spell to attack with your creatures. So basically, similar way to Penumbra Spider, can deal at least with one flying creature. And if we think only about the adventure part, it costs 1 less mana to deal with one flying creature. Of course, also if you want to play it as fast as possible, Web Shot is better compared to Penumbra Spider, because you can always play Penumbra Spider on turn 2, but considering that Green Ramp is always usually want to have a turn 1 mana dark in form of Wild Growth, Chapel Spirit or Argo Elf, you're probably gonna always have a chance to cast Web Shot on turn 2 to kill Percy most times. Then we have a couple of cards that they're not part of the mechanics of the set, but I think that are powerful enough that I want to show you first. We have You Meet in a Tavern, which is basically is just like the Stampede, that it costs 1 extra mana, but is a modal spell, so you can choose between Lead a Stampede or Start a Brawl, which gives 2+2/+2 to every creature you control, so it's something like a Stampede effect. So Lead the Stampede that in late game can be a Stampede effect, haha, pretty hilarious. So if you don't know what Lead the Stampede does, well, Lead the Stampede is the green card advantage card that gives elves and wolves combo enough fuel to be competitive in early and late game. The spell allows you to look at the top 5 cards on your library and reveal any amount of creatures from those 5 cards and then add into your hand. So basically you play 1 card and draw 5 creatures, up to 5 creatures at least. Usually when you play Lead the Stampede you draw something like 3 or 4 creatures, but sometimes you draw 5 creatures and sometimes you draw 0 creatures, because it's not good as green as blue card draw spells, of course. Kenku Artificer is probably the card that I like the most in this set, if we think only about the power or level. It's similar to Fierce Empath, because you tap 3 mana and play a 1/1 creature and then search for another creature, but instead of searching for a creature, you transform one non-artifact creature in a 3/3 flying creature, and yeah, the creature has flying and is a 3/3, so it dies to Lightning Bolt unless you transform one breach, because you can play breaches in Affinity, and breaches have indestructible. So yep, you can play a turn 3 Kenku Artificer, transform your breach in an artifact flying creature with indestructible that can still generate mana, and then you just choose between having 3/3 attackers or just let untap it your Doctor and block any spell starter sprite, Double Secrets, Korsky Fisher, and whatever. It's just good, I think. Probably will be see play in Affinity. Why not? I mean, you are running something like 8 to 11 indestructible lands, and nowadays Affinity is just Grixis Affinity. So why not play this dude instead of, for example, Frogmite or Gurmagangler? Okay, Gurmagangler is cool at all because something like 1 mana for a 5/5 creature, but if you kill your Kangaroo Artificer with Deadly Dispute or Makeshift Munition or just in block, you can then bring it back with Blood Fountain and then generate again 2 creatures on the battlefield by tapping only 3 mana. Pretty cool. Lantern of Revealing is probably the most similar card that Wizard ever printed. Similar card to Baldur's Ornament, I mean. And as you may know, I truly miss Baldur's Ornament. Why Eisen01 did you ban it? Baldur's Ornament? It was so much fun by playing Ponza with Baldur's Ornament. Oh well, whatever. Lantern of Revealing is not as powerful as Baldur's Ornament, of course, but is kind of cool because if you something like tap 4 mana, tap Lantern of Revealing to scry 1. If there's a land on the top deck, you generate some mana ramp. If there's no land, you can choose between keeping on top deck or just putting on the bottom. So you can generate some values in a similar way to the Strixhaven scry lands. Okay, let's take a fast look at the Wall expansion. So from white, there's a couple of adventure creatures that are pretty cool. Blissed Hippogriff is 1 mana to protect one of your creatures. It makes them it gains the creature get indestructible, and then later in the game you can play a flying 2/3 creature for 4 mana. Maybe will be see play in Mono White Heroic because I mean. In Mono White Heroic, you play spells that protect your creatures from rivals, and you can play both protection and a creature. So in late game, if you are unlucky enough to have 4 mana and are not able to do anything else, you can still have a creature, which is pretty cool because Mono White Heroic doesn't have a lot of creatures, and it really can help Mono White Heroic a lot in the late game, at least by giving an extra creature. There's another adventure card in white. Oh well, there's also initiative creature, which is also pretty strong. I mean, a 3/6 for only 5 mana, which gives you the initiative and also has vigilance, so you can both attack and keep 1 blocking creature. Is cool. And Guardian Naga, I really like Guardian Naga. You can exile artifact lands with the adventure part, and then you can play a 5/6 creature, so basically a Gearseeker Serpent, which can block Gearseeker Serpent, Mirror and Gurmagangler. It can also attack because it has vigilance, and you prevent all the damage that will be dealt to Guardian Naga as long as it's your turn. So if your opponent wants to kill it, they should waste their mana during their turn. I don't see any other creature. Okay, there's Roving Harper. Roving Harper will probably see play in White Winnie because White Winnie nowadays plays basically any value card that is printed from in white. The new angel from New Capenna in Spring Oversea already is played in White Winnie. So why not playing Phyrexian Rager in White Winnie? So basically White Winnie is pretty similar to Mono Black, but it runs more value creatures and less removal spells. That's kind of cool. I should start playing White Winnie. Also, there's not so many Tron decks. Maybe it's time to play White. Googles of Night. I really like Googles of Night because I tried to build an EZ equipment decks some times ago. It wasn't good. Maybe adding an equipment that draws you cards would be cool, would be good enough. I mean, being able to draw extra card usually is probably the best payoff or the best enabler. And this equipment, when you deal combat damage to an opponent, let you scry one and draw a card, and also tapping only 2 mana to cast it or to equip it is pretty good in my opinion. It has a good rate. Nothing else, right? Right. Let's go see what there is in black, because there's at least a couple of cards. There's the 5 mana Menace creature, initiative creature with Menace, a 5/3. So it can trade with Grumag Angler, and also it forces your opponent to block with 2 creatures. It dies to the Lightning Bolt, but it's in certain ways evasive creature. I also like Moldfolk. Moldfolk is something similar to Carrion Feeder, because you sacrifice another creature or an artifact to give it a +1/+1 counter, but it also has lifelink. Sadly, you need to pay 1 mana to sacrifice another creature, but maybe it's playable alongside Carrion Feeder, because having lifelink makes it really good at lasting in 1. Maybe Golgari Sacrifice or Golgari Tokens will be good with this new Carrion Feeder like creature. Then there's Arms of Other. I think we can think that Arms of Other will be probably played plenty enough in Pauper, because it's better compared to Suffocating Fumes when you try to deal with decks running cards like Parapet or Spider Silk Armor, and it doesn't target your creature. I mean, it literally say creatures target player controls gets -1, -2. So it plays around some cards like Ramosian Rally or Spider Silk Armor, and also when you play Dimir Ferris or Dimir Monarch or whatever Dimir deck, is clearly better against Boros Metalcraft, because Fumes or Electricity are good only against Curator Bird, but being able to kill also Cigar of the Way and Glinthook with a Master Removal is pretty strong against Boros Metalcraft. In red, there's nothing much, if I remember correctly. Oh yeah, there's Brit Weapon, which is slightly upgraded to Field Candidate, because it doesn't deal damage to non-dragon creature, and it can kill pirate creatures. There's Crimson Fleet Admiral, Crimson Fleet Commodore, which is a pirate and only has 2 points in Constitution. So whenever you play Ferris, you prefer to play Free Cannonade, because you don't want to kill your 5/2 creatures. But in whatever deck which isn't playing a pirate, you prefer Breath Weapon, because it can destroy more creatures compared to Free Cannonade at least. I think that the only card to note, not only the Dragon Free Cannonade, there's also Steering Bard, which is the initiative red creature. Sadly, it isn't great in any aggressive mid-range deck, but since it is a defender, you maybe want to play in Cascade Walls, maybe? I think the cool part about this card in Cascade Walls is the ability to give menace or haste to a creature, so you can play Stealing Bard alongside Tuk Grabble Fort, and is also a value card, and is also Defender with 4 points in Constitution. Can be good, probably, I'm not sure. Cascade, not so many Cascade Walls are played nowadays. Probably I should try that card in Cascade Walls, at least in one single copy. In green there's a couple of cards beside You Meet in a Tavern, I mean. The first one, which one is? Okay. There's a lot of cards. Alright. Clockwood Swarm Keeper. Basically, this little elf ranger that costs only 1 mana is really great as a payoff in a token strategy, because whenever you land a token, regardless of it being a creature or a non-creature token, so yeah, when you play Deadly Dispute and you have a Clockwood Swarm Keeper on the battlefield, your treasure token gives 1 token on Clockwood Swarm Keeper, and it's also it triggers freely from a Colony Garden, which is pretty cool. And I think, as I already said, that eventually a Golgari deck running a lot of tokens and maybe some Carrion Feeder, Mortician Beetle, and Bloodbrear. Bloodbrear basically is the same thing as Body Dropper, but is green. It costs 1 extra mana and it triggers whenever a player sacrifices whatever card. Yeah, Golgari Sacrifice or Golgari Tokens, whatever you want to call it, is probably playable right now. Another cool deck that I want to try. And if you want to play a Golgari token deck, there's also Carefree Swine Master, 3 mana for a 1/4 creature. Okay, not good statistics, not good body, yeah. It costs a lot of mana to cast it, but whenever you attack with it, you can pay 2 mana and generate a token bar to tap it and attacking. The initiative creature that costs 5 mana is at 5/4 with trample. And then we take a look at the artifact and the lands. There's nothing in multicolored and colorless, sadly. Let's scroll. We have a Nimble Rigged Schematic and Prize Statue, which are 2 cards that basically do the same thing as Echo Wellspring, but instead of drawing you cards, they generate tokens. The first one generates a Servo token, a 1/1 creature, and the second one a treasure token. So they're both way worse compared to Echo Wellspring, but they are still good because artifacts are truly powerful in Pauper, and I think we said everything that we needed to say. Regarding of the lands, they're printing Revolving Wilds, but we already talked about the gates. And guys, thank you for watching this video. See you next week.